Hello, hello, hello. We are about to begin. If you could type in the chat box if you can hear me okay. Olivia, thanks so much for joining us. YouTuber, TEDx speaker, just graduated from medical school. Congratulations. Oh, Olivia, how are you? Olivia is awesome. She has a very provocative YouTube channel. Thanks for being on. So again, if you could please type in the chat box. If you can hear me, just type in yes if you can hear me. Olivia, thank you so much. You should definitely drop in your YouTube link. Olivia has a very amazing YouTube channel, very animated and very knowledgeable. Thank you for serving us as a medical student, Olivia. So again, we will wait a few minutes to have more people show up. I am very excited to share this with you. Tell me where you're all from. Type in the chat box where you're from. I'm originally from New York, born and raised. I moved out to California in 2000. I'm currently in Miami. I travel a lot, given what's going on now, not so much, but that will soon change. So type in the chat box, where are you all from? Where are you all from in the chat box? So Benny asked if anyone's here. We are here now. So Amber is from Northern California. Where is everyone else from? Long Island. Olivia is in Long Island. Amber is Northern California. Where is everyone else from? Type in the chat box. Benny, are you still there, Benny? Los Angeles, Georgia. Very cool. We are going to begin momentarily, where I'm going to share with you 3 simple steps on how you turn your story into a successful speaking and online coaching business. Dia is in LA as well. Leah, awesome. So we got East Coast, we got West Coast, we got the South. SoCal, for those of you who don't know, that's Southern California. We got Michael in Redding. So we got a lot of Cali people in the house. And if anyone ever wants to go on a beautiful drive, if you drive from LA to Northern California, it is hands down one of the most beautiful drives in the world. I have literally traveled around the world, and second perhaps even to south of France. I mean, south of France is beautiful, but if you go up what they call the American Riviera, driving up the one freeway up the coast from Los Angeles to San Francisco, one of the most beautiful drives in the world. So again, type in the chat box if you can hear me. We're going to start momentarily. Just type yes if you can hear me. Make sure your sound is fine and everything. We're going to jump into this 3 simple steps where I help you turn your story, which I really believe is a gift. This is why I have a podcast called the Gifters Podcast, because your story is a gift. My program is called GPS because it's the Gifted Professional Speaker Program. My speech topics are called Story-Based Leadership because I really, 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 really believe that your story is a gift to the world. And in this webinar, I'm going to share with you, how do you turn this story into an actual business? So we will start momentarily. Just make sure your sound is good. Make sure you are ready for an exciting presentation. I love to speak. I am so grateful to be doing this for a living, and I'm very excited to share some of these tips with you. So we got Tanner in Miami. Victor can hear me. Emmett, ready. Okay, ready. Mr. Michael, I'm glad that you're ready. Cali is currently on fire. We're surviving worse. Yeah. So we'll talk about fires and pandemics. And at the end of the day, all of us are going to go through certain things. And ultimately, it's really about just being grateful for being alive. And there's really 2 things we can change, which is our mindset in terms of how we think and how we spend our time. And hopefully all of you are mindful of the fact that how we spend our time really will determine your success or failure. And what's going on now in the world, it's so easy to be discouraged, but really, it's really about being mindful of how you choose to see the world and what you choose to do each and every day, because there's so many things in life you cannot change. So if you're driving on the road and something cuts you off, and is it really necessary to shout and yell? I mean, I'm a New Yorker, so I'm very easily able to shout and yell as a New Yorker, as Olivia knows, but really it's about what can we control and what can't, and the vast majority of things we cannot control. So this webinar is really about what you can control, how you can spend your time, how you can really use these 3 simple steps to really help amplify your life and make a business out of it. So we're going to just dive in and start. So again, please type in the chat box. If you can hear me, just say yes. And once I hear and see that you can all hear me, we are going to jump in and start. So Olivia, Babette, Tanner, Michael, Emmett, Amber, Lydia, Chris, thank you all for joining our webinar. And we're just going to jump in and start. So this webinar is called 3 Simple Steps, How to Turn Your Story into a Successful Speaking and Online Coaching Business, Even During This Crisis. Stay till the end, and I will give you not 1, not 2, but 3 gifts. You have the 10 Commandments is what I call them, where every single speaker on this 10 Commandments, you have 6 things that are actually specific strategies on how to speak well, and then 4 or more a mindset thing. And then based on my 20 years of experience as a speaker, traveling the world and sharing the stages with literally the President Clintons and the Richard Bransons of the world, you really only need 10 what I call essential marketing gems. If you have these things, you'll be shining like a star, like a rock star that you deserve to be, whether as a speaker or coach. If you don't have those things, you really aren't going to be able to turn your story into a business. And lastly, what is your journey? I call our speakers, our clients gifters, because I really, again, believe that your story is a gift to the world. So stay till the end and you'll get not 1, not 2, but 3 gifts. So please make sure that this is your time. This is not your dog's time, that little cute dog named Maximus. This is not your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or girlfriend's time. You can invite them along as well, bring your popcorn, but just make sure that you are focusing on this webinar because this is about you. It's so funny how people talk about how they're good at multitasking, but it's been proven by science that multitasking is not true. So make sure that you're not looking at your phone, you're not looking at TV, just focusing on this presentation and listening about your future life. Because as one of my clients said, that my life is her vision. And that's such a humbling compliment to get. But ultimately, what you see here is what you will live in the future when you're focused. So make sure you write notes and have a growth mindset, because it's all about growing, learning, and then sharing that. As Maya Angelou once said, when you learn, teach, when you get, give. So who is this webinar for? It's really for any entrepreneur, executive, speaker, author, coach, or consultant who isn't working with the clients they want yet, who isn't on the stages that they want to share, or making the money they deserve. It's also for aspiring speakers or online coaches that really want to understand how to turn their story into a successful speaking and coaching career. And lastly, for those who are already fairly experienced, but they haven't figured out how to crack that 10,000 hour keynote speaking fee code. I've been speaking for the last 20 years. For the first 16 years, I was at $50. I went to $5,000. Actually, for the first 14 years, I was in between the 0 to 5,000. And from the 14th to the 16th, I figured out how to go from $5,000 to $30,000. And so not everyone's going to obviously get paid that much money, but it's really about this webinar is about either established speakers that haven't broken the $10,000 keynote speaking fee, or beginning speakers. And Dragan here actually is a client of mine. She epitomizes both the beginning person and now more experienced, where when she first started and I worked with her, she was so petrified to speak. She wouldn't even do a Facebook Live. So I literally sat down with Dragana, literally next to her, in an apartment in LA, and we did a Facebook Live, her first ever. And within that first Facebook Live, she had 2,000 views, which shocked her because she didn't know that many people would listen and watch and learn from her. Within a year, she spoke in front of 300 people. Within 2 years, she was on a global stage with heads of states in Europe, and she's easily cleared over 6 figures as a coach. But she really epitomizes what's possible in this understanding of turning your story into a successful speaking career. Who this is also for, we are living in a very treacherous, scary time. There are millions of people in the US alone that have lost their jobs. So people are nervous, but you don't have to be if you understand that there's so many ways to monetize if you go online. And I am the best person as an example. I literally was on a podcast last week and it went dead. And I'm like, what just happened? And it's because I didn't have my plugged in. So for any of you who start thinking about yourself and if it's possible to be an online coach, just look at me as an example where I literally, my computer went dead last week while I was on a podcast. How unprofessional that is, but just know that it's possible. This is for the moms and dads out there. Shout out to the moms and dads who are at home and raising their kids. That's really the most important job, but it's also about the fact that there's nothing wrong with having a side hustle, because I have clients that have 5 kids and 6 kids, and they're still having online programs. And lastly, it's about once in lifetime opportunities and experiences. This is me in front of a castle in Northern Ireland last October, where a client hired me and invited me to stay at a castle or hung out with the Earl of Erne, the 7th Earl of Erne, where at one point his family owned all the land from Dublin to Belfast. And this castle was on a 1900 acre estate. So whether you want to make a living, make an impact, have more side hustle, or have these unique once in a lifetime opportunities, it is very, very possible now more than ever. Some people want to travel the world like I do, and some people want to just stay home and travel occasionally. You decide that, because we live in a world where if you have a Wi-Fi connection, if you have the ability, determination, and focus, and more importantly, the instruction, you really will get there. So this is a dude that you probably don't want to be like. He's a little bit too cocky and arrogant for his own good, where he has his cool shades on. Sometimes I meet people that think they know everything. And this happens all the time, generally with more stereotypical alpha men who are like, yeah, Chris, I know about these marketing gems. I know about what you're doing. And then I look at their website and they say they know it. And I literally had a guy a few weeks ago. He says he's already ready to market himself. And he doesn't even have a speaking tab on his website. He doesn't have any videos. His testimonials are horrible. His photos are something that he did like 4 years ago. So be mindful that if you have an open mind, this webinar is for you. But those that are overly egocentric, thinking it's all about them, your story is important, but it's about how you can provide solutions for your various clients that will make you very successful and make you very inspiring for your clients. So this is why you might want to consider listening to me. That check is a check that I framed, and that actual backdrop is one of the speaking bureaus that I'm a part of. I'm represented by numerous speaking bureaus. It's a fancy term for an agent. So when you are at the highest level of speaking globally, you get represented by speaking bureaus. People might think that it's like a silver bullet, but it's not. It's great to be on those, and like all things, it's about nurturing relationships. But that check is a 50% non-refundable check. $15,000 for a $30,000 gig that I've gotten paid for one speaking engagement. That same conference Richard Branson spoke at. That same conference Steve Wozniak from Apple spoke at. That same conference Julie Sweet from Accenture, the CEO, spoke at. The point is, I have been doing this for 20 years. I have not met anyone in this space of these so-called speaker training programs that have spoken at nonprofits, for-profits, governments, high-level conferences, that whether you're Bill Gates, Richard Branson, it doesn't really matter, because I'm doing this for 20 years. You're getting a very crystallized version. As Olivia knows, as a fellow New Yorker, we just tell like it is. So I am billed at $20,000 for a speech. And what you're getting from this webinar is understanding how I did it in 3 simple steps. So you can really start creating that foundation. Because do you really want to type in the chat box, spend 20 years figuring this stuff out, or spend the next 30, 40 minutes to understand basics, and then from there you build? Because ultimately you have 2 types of people in the world. In Miami, where I currently am, you have people that are construction workers that are building these cool, amazing looking skyscrapers. And then you have the developer who actually is having the dream, creating the dream, and making the money and impact and living his or her dreams. And the developer hires an architect to actually build and design their dreams. So I'm your architect. I'm going to architect and help you design the next 3 steps for you to really understand how to turn your story into a successful speaking and online coaching business. I've been doing this for, like I said, 20 years. So as I've already said, I've shared the stages with people, whether Bill Gates or Richard Branson or Mr. President Clinton. And if I were myself 20 years ago, or frankly, even 10 years ago, I would have vomited on myself, because I am quite an introverted person. But when I started realizing that, though I've been speaking for 20 years, I was primarily a consultant, and I did speaking sometimes. And over the last 3 to 5 years, I've pivoted solely to speaking and traveling the world and having these programs in the last 3 to 5 years. And ultimately, if you don't show photos, no one's going to believe you. You can say you're a networker, you can say you're a speaker, you can say you're so successful, but you don't show it. No one's going to believe you. And in my case, I wrote this book about how do you network and connect with the people in the world that you get inspired by, because ultimately those are the rooms that you have to work to actually make those 5-figure keynote speaking fees, if that's what you command or want to command. So it wasn't always like this. This is actually a photo of me when I was in 8th grade. And ultimately, I don't look very happy because I wasn't. And I was punished and teased and bullied. My first paid speech was for $50. Angie just mentioned the most I ever got paid is $7,000. That's pretty good, Angie. Like I said, the most I got paid, well, my first paid speech was $50. Took me 14 years to go from 50 to 5,000. The next 2 years after that. So just getting paid, at least you know, Angie, it's possible and it's real. And for everyone else on this webinar, just know that it really is one of the most exciting things to know that someone will pay you to share your story and solutions with them. It's the most profound thing to know that your story really is a gift. Your message does have meaning, and your purpose in life is to share, serve, and to give of your heart so that we can live in a better world that we create ourselves. So you really don't want to waste the time that I did when I first started my career, spent so many hours creating a website, so many hours figuring out what I wanted to talk about. And it didn't really matter because I was not focusing on what the market wanted. This is a business. And if you want to create a business as a speaker, you have to understand what the market wants as a speaker. I didn't know that because I was not very bright at the time. And I was a little bit overly arrogant. And when I started my career 19, 20 years ago, I literally drove 697 miles to give a free speech to college students in Muncie, Indiana. So for those of you in the Midwest, to Ball State University, I was so hungry that I drove 697 miles to give a free speech. Not the best indication, perhaps, that I was on the right track. But if I can do that, I know you can, because like I said, for a kid that was punished in school to now getting paid a lot of money and to make an impact, which is most important, then it's very possible. And I literally got fired for my first full-time job at a college. Right in the comments, has anyone else been in the I've been fired club? I've been fired not once, but twice. That's how good I am. And you know you're an entrepreneur when you've been fired, because that's one of the hallmarks. A lot of people have been fired, including, I think, Steve Jobs. But type in the comments if you've been fired so I can feel less alone. So again, I already shared this with you. I am not a very tech-savvy person. So I know you can create an online program because I have, and I'm not this millennial. I'm in my 40s. And ultimately, you really have to build a global brand if you want to have the price points you deserve, work with the clients you deserve, and ultimately travel and live the life you deserve, because that really is real freedom. I had a client, he sold his company for $100 million. And I was traveling around the world. I was in Barcelona, Lithuania. About half of the year I was just traveling. And he was shocked. He's like, Christopher, how do you actually get paid and do your living when you're traveling so much? I'm like, Justin, I get paid as a global speaker. So when I'm around the globe, that's what I do. So it actually builds my brand. I have online programs, but he has hundreds of employees. He has a lot more net worth than I do at this point. Literally, he sold his company for $100 million, drives a $1 million car, but yet he was envious in my life. So real freedom for me is, Lydia, Chris, Babette, Angie, Dia, is that you can choose to work with the clients you want. You can choose to travel when you want. You can choose to go on your vacation when you want, or you can choose to stay home. It's your choice. That's what I call real freedom, because I know a lot of extremely wealthy people who actually aren't very happy, don't have a lot of freedom. They're just stuck in their car talking about how amazing they are. But real freedom is really, in my opinion, doing what you love, serving other people, and doing what you love, serving other people on your own time with whomever you want. That's what I consider real freedom. So the 3 big secrets I'm going to share comes down to branding, marketing, and what I call sales networking. Networking is the single most important quality and skill you need to be great at your career. This is according to Ron Burt, who's a professor out of Chicago who studied network science. Can you imagine how happy and excited his mother and father were when he said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to get a PhD in network science. But this guy, Ron Burt, B-U-R-T, studied network science, and he found that your network is the #1 best predictor for career success, because all you have to do is look at your phone. If you want to be a millionaire and you know no millionaires on your phone, well, what's the probability you can be a millionaire if you don't know anyone? If you want to be very fit and ripped and healthy and have a very strong lifestyle, well, if no one on your phone is healthy, well, how are you going to do that? So the whole point I'm getting at is you have to build a network, and you have to build a network of clients that can actually hire you. So before we dive into the actual secrets, we're going to talk about some myths. A lot of people think you need to write a book, and you don't. I literally had a guy that wanted to join our program 4 years ago when I started it. And now 4 years later, he's still thinking about being a speaker, and he's still thinking about a book. And I'm like, look, what is your purpose? And he says, I want to make an impact. And I say to him, he's an older gentleman, so he thinks that he needs to write a book to make an impact. I'm like, you're better off giving speeches to know what people want. So then you can write a book in terms of what they want, so therefore you can get paid for it, because you don't want to do what I did. Like I said, spent 8 years writing my first book, didn't go very far. And so you don't have to write a book. It's helpful, but it's not necessary. This is the first book I wrote 20 years ago about college success. Didn't go very far. Grateful that I did it, but you don't want to waste hundreds of thousands of hours trying to figure things out. And this is just, again, some of my backstory. It's a punishing world to write a book. You're better off literally giving more speeches, figuring out what people want, and then write a book. Some people might assume myth number 2 is you have to be a great speaker. You really don't. You have to be a good speaker with a great message and a great solution. And as I said with Dragana, she's a perfect example. She openly admitted that she wasn't a great speaker. She was afraid to speak, but yet here she is 2 years into her career speaking at a global conference. So she is a good speaker, but more importantly, she has a great message for her clients that people want to hire her for. And you don't necessarily to meet, and that you also need to just understand about, again, the market demands. There's a term called product market fit, where does your product fit the market in terms of what the market desires? The products that I offer, whether in networking, whether becoming a speaker or coach, it's been proven, whether this year, last year, 10 years ago, Brian Tracy has been doing this, Tony Robbins has been, like, people have been doing this forever. And so I know that there's a demand for it. So just keep in mind, focus less on what you think people might want and just point blank ask them, or they'll usually ask you. The last myth that I'm going to share before we dive into the secrets of turning your story into a successful career is you might think you need years of experience to be a speaker. You need someone with years of experience like myself that has the experience, but you personally don't need it per se. If you have the right guidance, like I said, you're the developer, developing your dreams. I'm your architect, designing it for you. Here is an actual case study of one of my clients. Her name is Shazad. She joined our program almost 4 years ago. She was 20 years old. I'm going to say that again. She was 20 years old, and she secured $4,000 from her first speech from IKEA because I helped her understand how to brand herself within a month, which most people take 10 years or more. But in her case, she listened. She's a great learner. She's very assertive. So in her case, she's a rock star because very few people at 20 years old can get paid any money, frankly. But thanks to my guidance and her tenacity to learn, she became a global expert based on just learning from a global expert. And by the way, expert just means you know more than the client that's hiring you. So I want to be really clear. For my definition of expert, if you want to get paid as an expert, you know more than your client. So if I've given, now granted I have given over 1,000 presentations, but if I've given 10 speeches and someone has never given one speech, then I'm perceived as an expert. If you've bought 3 apartments and I have bought none, then you are perceived as an expert. Just be really clear. That's how we define expert. So secret number 1 is this. How do you go from being invisible to expert? Because if you're not an expert, no one's going to hire you. And that's really, really important. You have to get in your mind that you have to be perceived as an expert. So secret number 1 is this. Unfortunately, we have what we think in our mind is what's real, but it's not real. What I mean by that is if you Google your name and you're not visible, you're literally invisible. Let's say in this case, a gentleman named Dan, he literally Googled himself, and it wasn't a young black man who's an athlete. He was an older Caucasian man who had an amazing story, very inspiring. But unfortunately for him, his name was a bit more on the common side. And so he was invisible. So how can you convince a client to hire you if you were literally, according to Google, invisible? In my case, I didn't pay any SEO expert. I know my marketing works. I know my strategies work because I've been doing this for 20 years. But if you look closely at these videos, if you were to Google me, most of these videos are within the last few years. So they've been doing this for 30 years. It's so realistic to be able to start branding yourself as an expert, because if you don't have videos on your Google search, when someone Googles you, your videos are essentially your resume. So if you don't have actual videos, then you are not a speaker. And that's the thing that's unfortunate in life, where if you have the guidance that I'm teaching you, then you can be perceived as a global expert. So that is literally me speaking at Google, me in Zurich, Switzerland with the president of Switzerland, me speaking at a Las Vegas event. But the whole point is, do yourself a favor and every so often Google yourself and see what comes up, and have other people Google you, because what is shown on Google is what people will perceive you as. And ultimately, you have to really start putting more videos and photos of you on a stage, on a Zoom call, so that they can see what you do and not what you say what you do. The easiest way, frankly, for secret number one to be a global brand and to be an international speaker, this is one of my private coaching calls where Aaron is from Canada and Shazad is from Sweden, and the rest are from the US. So just by speaking on a Zoom call, you are already an international speaker because you have a global audience. Think about that. What does an international speaker mean? Yeah, you can speak internationally at a foreign country. It's easier for the Europeans here, who can literally get on a train ride from Paris. 2 hours later, you're in Bruges, Belgium. 2 hours later, you're in Amsterdam. But ultimately, in the Zoom world we are now, in the virtual world we are now, just go on someone's Zoom link or Zoom group, and as long as you have 2 or 3 people that are in different countries and you speak for 5-10 minutes on your expertise, you will be considered an international speaker. Now, I want to be really clear. This is one of those what they call life hacks. I prefer calling them accelerators. It sounds so simple, but again, everything sounds simple when you've been doing this for 20 years, okay? So once you are perceived as an expert, once you say you are an international speaker, you tell me, does it sound better, Olivia, when I call you an international speaker, or I just say you're a speaker? Angie, if I said you're a global expert or just expert, what sounds better? So just keep in mind that so much of life is about perception. And when you're perceived as an expert, you will be that much more edified and perceived as an expert. The other thing is also to speak at a Fortune 500 company. This photo is of the first month of our GPS program 4 years ago. And ultimately, I am so grateful because every single one of these people I'm still in touch with. And I'll just end with Mikey, the one in the wheelchair. This man was told by his mother that he should have been dead by 20. Now he's in his 30s. And so every one of these individuals has a story. He just booked his first keynote speech about a month ago. And ultimately, when you speak at Fortune 500 companies, not only can you say you're an international speaker, you can also say you're an international speaker or a Fortune 500 speaker. And the best way to do that is to go to a real estate company like Berkshire Hathaway. And literally, Berkshire Hathaway is a global brand where most realtors have meetings every week, every month. And they often, since they are self-employed, they are their own boss, essentially. They always need skills, whether you're good at leadership, whether you're good at sales, whether you're good at networking. They all want to understand how to do better. So as soon as you walk in the door, even if they have not paid you, if you've spoken there at Berkshire Hathaway, then you can be a Fortune 500 speaker. So again, using that same analogy, Tanner, if you spoke at Berkshire Hathaway in the next month on the topics of relationship building, and ultimately you speak there, you get a video there, you get someone giving you a testimonial, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you can already say you're a Fortune 500 speaker. And again, the prominence, how that sounds is so important. So that's secret number one, is become an international speaker. I didn't realize this when I did my first speech 19 years ago in Hong Kong at the time. It was for a Rotary Club. And as soon as I gave a speech, even though they didn't pay me, I was like, whoa, I'm an international speaker. And that brand, international, is huge, 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 huge. Let me know if that makes sense in terms of the secrets. Next is the create a mouth-watering testimonial. So I say mouth-watering because we don't realize it, but ultimately, if you are not mouth-watering, if people don't think of you in a wow factor, it's not going to help. So in this case, the first thing you need for a mouth-watering testimonial is having pictures are helpful. So I can say that Elon Musk once said during an interview that he said, "I know a lot." And yeah, I can say that, but again, seeing is believing. In this case, you see a picture with me and Elon Musk. And for those of you who may or may not know Elon, who's a big fan of Elon Musk? Which company do you most admire? So type in the comments, which company do you most admire about Elon Musk? But this man is worth, last I checked, about $80 billion. He co-founded Tesla, PayPal, SpaceX. He wants to create a space-faring race for us human species. One of the most inspiring guys in the world. If you go to YouTube and type in Christopher Kai and Elon Musk, you'll see me. The point is, when you start speaking more, when you have more coaching clients, you want to have photos of you speaking or coaching them, because that will just really give them a very clear idea that you mean business, you're professional, and images are absorbed 60,000 times faster than words. So when you see me there with Elon, I didn't just have a photo op with him, I interviewed him, and you can see it on YouTube. The other thing is, when you're a coach, you really want to have before and after results, because at the end of the day, your clients are going to hire you for results. In Ashley's case, here's a woman who helped her last employer make $2 billion. I'll say it again. She helped her client make $2 billion in 6 years, and she hired me to help her understand how to build her brand and then get paid gigs or gigs that would help her build her brand. In this case, I helped her get a TEDx talk within 3 months. In Sterling's case, he's an example of a client of mine who has not written any books, and yet he's billed out at over $20,000. In his case, he was plateauing in his career, and after working with me in my program, he consistently gets $20,000 for a gig. But again, you have to share before and after results. Before you, they were here. After they met you, after they had these mouth-watering responses, these dopamine levels, they got to hear and feel your message. And then after working with you, whether it's a speaker or a coach, they had the results. A lot of people that are not really good about writing, they just say, oh, Michael is amazing. Who cares if Michael's amazing if he doesn't give me results, right? Also, the time frame is important too. Shortest time frame possible. You really have to have a really good ear for this. I just asked Myron at one point, Myron, how long have you wanted to be a speaker for? And he looked down, was a bit ashamed to share, but I said, please tell me. And he said, 10 years. So Myron has wanted to share his story, wanted to share his dream, wanted to share his message with the world for 10 years. A lot of people, by the way, are like Myron, where you say you want to have a better life, you say you want to make more money, you say you want to be a big difference, but then you watch a webinar, you read a book, and nothing happens. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, 5 years goes by. In Myron's case, 10 years goes by. Now, I want, for the younger listeners here on the webinar, you might think that things will work out. A lot of times they don't. And the ones that are older, you know that they don't always work out, because people do die, people do miss out, people do not get to do the things they do, which is why a lot of people end up with regret. In Myron's case, thanks for him, we connected, and in just a month of working with me, he booked 4 speeches. So make sure when you write testimonials, and you can draft them for your clients, so there's a shortest time frame. You're not going to always get those results, but the better you get them, the more prominent they'll sound. Next secret is you have to have titles. This is another big thing that I see people that don't do. If I just said, Lisa said that I'm a great speaker, big deal. But Lisa is a C-level executive. She's a president of a firm. And I drafted this testimonial for Lisa because, again, you don't want to assume that people write well. You don't want everyone saying that you're amazing, Michael, you're phenomenal, Angie. You want people saying, Angie, you are the best speaker I saw in the last 10 years. Michael, your level of understanding about leadership was so profound that it really beats any leadership speaker I've ever seen. What I'm saying is you have to write things that are mouth-watering. And in Lisa's case, when she told me that no one's ever gotten a standing ovation, I drafted this testimonial and said, hey, would you mind if I use this? She said, you know what, Christopher, this is not how I normally speak. It's a little more formal, but for sure, definitely use it. So make sure you know that titles matter, whether with the title of their position in the company or the actual brand of the company. McKinsey, for instance, at one point, McKinsey partner in Zurich, Switzerland. He's out of Germany, but he was there in Zurich hearing me speak. And he literally said that I elevated the event to a TED Talk level conference. Again, anyone can say that, but when a McKinsey partner says that, and McKinsey, for those of you who may or may not know, that's like the Harvard of consulting. So it's super important that you have big titles, because the bigger the title, the bigger the brand, the bigger the price points that they'll have, and the more impressive it'll sound, because it's all about how do you stand out. The very word outstanding means you stand out. Again, simple, right? But simple after 20 years. Brand name recognition. Here's a few more clients where they were able to speak at a Fortune 500 company that I helped them with, be able to get profiled on these various international publications like Forbes, and therefore the international brand. These gentlemen have literally coached over 1,000 people online as fitness trainers. They're rock stars. So that was the second secret, which is, again, making sure that you have mouth-watering testimonials, because testimonials, according to McKinsey, based on a report they released called the Consumer Decision Journey, studying 20,000 individuals around the world, they found that consumer-driven marketing, i.e. client testimonials, are 31% more effective, which is why if you want to be 31% more effective in sales or in life, start creating and crafting mouth-watering testimonials. Let me know. You can type in the comments. Hopefully I'm doing a good job. Hopefully you can write a mouth-watering testimony for me in this webinar. So the last secret is this. You have to attend global conferences and networking events that cater to global leaders. I already showed you some pictures of where I met President Clinton or Richard Branson. It's not a coincidence that the same $5,000 gala I met Jeff Bezos at a few years back in Beverly Hills at a 5-star hotel after the Golden Globes. It was after the Golden Globes award party, was $5,000 to get in. Now, again, you can pay that or you can get in other ways, which is why I wrote a book about that. The point is, not a coincidence that where I met Elon Musk is also where I met Jeff Bezos, is also where I met Julia Roberts and Leonardo DiCaprio and Justin Bieber. I'm not dropping names to impress upon you because I don't need to impress you. If you haven't listened to my profile, it's just about you have to be in those rooms. So sometimes people get very turned off when I drop names, but the reality is, if you're not going to those events, it's not a coincidence that a Paris Hilton is at the same event as a John Paul DeJoria, who's a billionaire from Patron Tequila. It's not a coincidence that Jeff Bezos has his own studio, but all I'm saying is you have to go to those types of people, which you might think are scary or inhuman, but really, they're all human beings. They all eat and sleep and go to the restroom and have jobs and dreams. So going to these global conferences, like that one, for instance, with President Clinton, regardless of your political affiliations, whether it's with George Bush or President Clinton, whatever it might be, that event costs $20,000 and you could have volunteered, okay? And I'll share that with you in the next slide, where the World Economic Forum costs $60,000. I've been there twice. I didn't even bother going to the conference. I went because I was invited by a client of mine. They're in Saudi Arabia, and they had a gala there. This Milken conference cost $10,000, and the Hope Global Forum, where I got paid my $30,000, I met him there. It's an exclusive event where, again, some of them you can pay for, some of them you can just go there, and I'll walk you through exactly how to get into some of these events. Because again, if you're not going to these events, you're not going to get the knowledge and the understanding of those types of people. It's almost as like you have a brand like Target or Walmart. Nothing to knock about Target or Walmart, by the way. I shop there when I do shop. I don't really shop much, but the whole point is you might have this perceived brand as a Target or Walmart for every person, but you want to sell yourself as a $10,000, $20,000 speaker, which is more of a Ritz-Carlton, a more of a high-end brand. So these are high-end brands. So you have to be very mindful what type of brand you're projecting to the world, because ultimately that's not going to help. So keep that in mind. And Emmett talked about how COVID, the secret number 3, doesn't apply. It still applies because all of these various events have online presences. So World Economic Forum has articles and videos, and they have constant seminars. So this still applies in the COVID world, just so you all know, right? This is still just as relevant and perhaps even more, because it's much easier to reach out to people online, because you'll have 5, 10, 20, 30 people all in these groups online. And so if you build the rapport now, you can still get on the phone virtually. You can still talk to them and communicate them. So it's still very doable now. So let me give you specific 5 ways to get into these events, okay? First way is to be a speaker. Again, it might seem obvious, but a lot of people are scared. They don't think they're a speaker. But again, owning that you are an expert in your field. Expert means that you know more than the person you're hiring. This is an actual example. Sometimes my team reaches out to people that I want to speak out. Sometimes I think like 2 a.m, sometimes I'll reach out to this person. This is an actual event that Gary Vaynerchuk spoke at, and Tom Bilyeu, who's a friend of mine. Gary V, he bills out, I think, at $200,000+. So he's more of a social media guy, And I reached out to the organizers. And by the way, I didn't reach out to just the one organizer. I reached out to 4, hit them up on Instagram based on the script that I used, based on science and sales. I literally said, hey, I first complimented them and then told them who I was. And then from there, this is me. I would have been headlining. I was going to be the opening headlining speaker, and then Gary Vee was going to close that. So literally, it was just from an outbound text on Instagram, and it was literally that simple. Lydia says that she loves Tom Bilyeu. For those of you who don't know, he's an amazing guy. He has a thing called Impact Theory on YouTube. He's a very insightful man, had a very tough childhood and an upbringing, but super inspiring guy. So next thing is this. I've helped my clients get press passes. I don't have the time to go into really big detail, but ultimately, all these various publications like Forbes, Inc., Huffington Post, not all of them, but many of them, I should say, have both staff writers and contributors. But then you have someone like a Jarrett Eng, who literally has hundreds of millions of views. He's a blogger who gets into these events on a press pass because all these events that are celebrity driven have the need for press. So if you first identify the event, and then contact the press, and then identify what press outlet that you could potentially write for. In my case, I wrote for the Look to the Stars, and you'll see here recent articles about me or from me. And the way you do that is literally just identify the event, contact the press, and say, hey, I want to be press. That could be either as a producer, as a writer, or as a photographer, but it's never been more possible to get a press pass if you just understand that, yes, you have the Forbes, but you have all these other online websites that need people to go there to present their so-called press for them. And so Look to the Stars, the one I just talked about, I don't even know if they make money, but they need writers and producers. So I ended up just volunteering to write, and just make sure you have at least 3 articles on LinkedIn so they know you can write somewhat well, okay? Next way to go and attend these events is to consider being a guest. And again, seems simple. A lot of people are afraid. I have realtors all the time that are clients of mine. They've read my book about billionaires. They say they have billionaire friends, but they get all angry when their billionaire doesn't have them sell their home. And I'm like, did you ask? And then they look down and they say no. I'm like, because they assume in their world, well, why don't they just ask me? I'm like, why should they ask you? Don't assume that they should. So in this case, one of my friends is one of Tony Robbins' top sales trainers. He's helped Tony Robbins make hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's given over 2,000 seminars to hundreds of thousands of people. His name is Eli. And Eli was going to a UPW event, which is I think it's called Unlimited Power, I believe. Did 22,000 people. This is the actual screenshot of me on WhatsApp. I'm like, hey, where are you going with Tony? That's Tony Robbins, who makes $5 billion a year. Can I tag along? Just a simple question. My friend says, ha, 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 no. Right? But I asked, okay? So just keep in mind, if you don't ask, you don't get. And the more you ask, the more you'll get. I have people that come to me and they say, Christopher, I've asked to be a speaker, and they said no. And I said, well, how many times did you ask? They said 2. I'm like, well, when you do it 20 times, 200 times, 2,000 times, and you come back to me and tell me if you actually get the gigs, because you can't just do it for 2 times. It's just so ridiculous, okay? So ask your friends that are speakers, and be nice about it, obviously, right? You don't want to be this taker all the time. You just always want to give. And then the last one, in terms of how to get to these events, this sounds so simple, but it's called lobby hugging, which means all of these events, many of them post where they have their event. In this case, this is in Atlanta, Georgia. No one's stopping you from going to the lobby. I've gotten clients in lobbies. I've gotten clients in the Waldorf Astoria on the rooftop. I've gotten clients at 2 in the morning in Times Square where a Russian photographer takes a picture of me and my friend Sarah, and he wanted to be a speaker. He ended up becoming my client. My point is, there is no excuse for you not to get into these events, because if you can't afford getting into them, if you can't get invited, once you start keening in on understanding who these people are and where they go. And even myself, you see there me, I'm there with Arianna Huffington and the former president of Mexico, and Max Levchin, who co-founded PayPal, and Chuck, who is the former US Secretary of Defense. And again, I specifically put those pictures because seeing is believing. So lobby hugging simply is go to a 5-star hotel anywhere you are and look at what the agenda is, look at some of the events. If they're having an event at a 5-star hotel like Ritz-Carlton, you're probably pretty sure they're going to have a lot of money and they're executives. And if you want to meet more executives and have more money and make more of an impact, you have to go where they are. And though it sounds simple, first time it might be scary, second time it's less scary. But when you lobby hug, start acclimating yourself to these types of people, you'll start knowing and learning about that world. Because if you want to be in that world, if you want to be at these global conferences, again, first time I went to the conference where I saw President Clinton or Elon Musk or whatever, like, ooh, that's kind of scary. But over time, I've been to so many of them now, it doesn't faze me, it excites me. I'll say it again. It doesn't faze me, it excites me. It should only faze you if you think that your value is below them. They might have more money than you, but I want to be really clear. Our human value is equal for anyone. I don't care if you're black, white, woman, man. It doesn't matter who you are. Our value is the same. So I have no issues going to these events. But some people, unfortunately, think of themselves more with low self-esteem. So they think, oh, I can't go to these events. No, you can. I'm telling you, okay? You can. This case, they literally have a volunteer tab on their website. So many of these events you can volunteer. And if they don't have an actual tab, just ask for them and say, hey, love your event. Again, compliment, and just literally ask them, may I volunteer? You're better off volunteering because you get it for free. You get the inside scoop. And if you're going to volunteer, you ideally want to volunteer for the speakers coordination, because you literally get the speakers and get to learn about them. And ultimately, you can't be who you want to be if you don't know the people that are wanting, that you want to be like. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years. I know my stuff better than anyone that I've seen in this whole speaker training space, because usually the speakers I see, the trainers, they're usually has-beens or they've done it before, but they're not doing it real time. And I'm doing this like real time, literally. Before this happened, I traveled 40,000 miles in January and February. I was in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, London, Australia, Miami, Toronto, LA. And so it's fun. But I also want to always remember where I came from. And I always want to remember what Maya Angelou once said, who is Oprah Winfrey's former mentor. She said, again, when you learn, teach. When you get, give. What's the point of making money? What's the point of doing anything, frankly, when you can't teach and give to yourself, to other people? So let's do a quick recap about what we've learned. 3 secrets are this. The first one is, if you are not perceived as an expert, you will not be paid the money you deserve. You will not have the clients you want. You will not have the lifestyle. So go ahead and type in the chat box, what is your expertise? Mine is leadership. Mine is sales. Mine is networking. Type in the chat box, what is your form of expertise? Because you need one. Okay. Thank you, Lydia. And you have to be not visible, but expert. So the secret is, start posting more videos, start posting more photos, start writing more articles, and projecting your expertise. And you have to define that. The people that tell me, oh, Chris, I do this, just focus on one first and then build out. So the first secret is, make sure you go from invisible to expert, because experts get paid a lot of money. Next secret is, again, according to McKinsey, they've studied this, 20,000 people, consumer-driven marketing, i.e., client testimonials, are 31% more effective. How do you do that? I already shared with you. You have to have mouth-watering testimonials. Like I said, you might not know me, but you might know Elon Musk, and this man is very impressive. I didn't just get a photo op with him. I convinced him to come to the worst part of town at a homeless shelter where I mentor homeless kids. I started a program 10 years ago where we mentor kids that are homeless, teenagers that are homeless, where we get them jobs, get them into college, and get them to stay in school, but frankly, just to keep them alive. And Elon came and spoke, and I have on video him saying at one point, wow, you really know a lot. So again, if you have someone super high level like that, they can literally say anything and it's already mouthwatering. But if it's someone that people might not know, make sure they're a president or C-level, and that still is mouthwatering. So keep that in mind, okay? And last secret is, attend global conferences. I already said to you, the easiest way literally is go to a 4-star or 5-star hotel, go to a Ritz-Carlton, go to a Waldorf Astoria, go to the Peninsula. It doesn't matter what the hotel is. Most of these hotels, if they have banquet halls and conference halls and whatnot, they will have conferences. And as you start going there once a week, start looking at their agenda. That's the quickest and easiest way. Or I already gave you 3 leads: the Milken Global Institute, the World Economic Forum, whether you're online or offline, you can still virtually connect with people. And it's actually easier now. Literally, if you were to go to LinkedIn and you put World Economic Forum and someone has that on their profile, no one's stopping you from reaching out to them. Now, this is the thing about LinkedIn, by the way. I get hundreds of emails and messages and invites. And what's so sad and unfortunate, I don't have the time to help all of them, but some of them are so selfish. Some of them are so about them. They're like, oh, Christopher, you should read my book. No. Oh, Christopher, I happened upon your profile. No. Oh, Chris, I mean, who cares who they are? I don't know these people. Okay. Literally my team usually looks at my email and my messages and whatnot. So people that are fairly busy, they're going to have teams do that, you know? So the point is, what if someone said, and this actually happened, someone said, Christopher, we want to hire you potentially to train our C-level executives for our virtual conference. Immediately, out of those 300 messages I got on LinkedIn, that person goes straight to the top because she is hiring me for a speech. So just keep in mind that as you're networking, you can start online and you have to go to these conferences because that's super important. Because if you don't go to those global conferences, you're not going to be a global leader. And if you don't understand that world, it really is it's really like a language. It's really a language that you might not know. Like if you don't know things like what a real thought leader is, or what family offices are, or private equity, or venture capital, like these are some basic words in certain industries. But ultimately, it's important that you know the type of talk. So please type in the chat box. Give me a hell yeah or heavens yes. I think Angie said that this is the best webinar she's seen this year, so thank you for that. But are you enjoying what I'm sharing with you today? Tell me hell yes or what's up or amen. You can tell me how you feel about this webinar, because it's something that I deeply enjoy doing, and hopefully it's helped you and hopefully taking notes, because really it's really about getting people who are doing what you want. And like I said, I'm a New Yorker. I hate people that give you these webinars. And of course, you know, they want to offer a product, which they should, which all of you should, but just make sure you give some real meat that you can sink your teeth into. In my case, like I said, I know what I'm doing because I've been doing this for 20 years, but I'm a New Yorker, so I'm straight up to the point. And some people like that, some people don't. So here's the elephant in the room. A lot of people say, well, Christopher, we're going this COVID time. Here's how crazy life is, okay? As I said to you, I should have been speaking, headlining at a conference in Vegas in front of a few thousand people with Gary Vee and Tom Bilyeu. This is what I showed you. Again, you can believe what I'm saying, but when you see it, that's factual, okay? So on that day, I posted, look, I of all people should be upset. I of all people should be really angry. I of all people should be really sad because I have been speaking for 20 years, but it's only in the last 3 to 5 years that my career as a speaker is literally crescendoing. I was just on cloud 17, and I of all people should be very upset. I was looking forward to sharing the stage with Gary Vee, but I didn't. So in the last 5 months, where everyone is running to get toilet paper, where everyone's afraid, where everyone's hesitating, where everyone is focusing more on the amygdala, which is fight or flight, in the last 5 months, I have interviewed 686 people for my podcast, which I started again. I've secured dozens of clients. I've built 3 different revenue streams. I'm doing more webinars. I secured 7 different virtual keynotes. I redid my whole TPS. The whole point is, when you're around someone like me, which I call an action figure, I'm not perfect, but I know what I'm good at. When you're around my energy, what's going to happen? You're going to have more energy. And this is the elephant in the room. This is just in the last 3 months. Imagine if it was not COVID or pre-COVID or post-COVID. These are the results that I'm getting from my clients. Roderick secured 14 clients. Dr. Chris secured 18 clients. We have people that have secured speeches, both paid and not. We have people that got featured on Variety, which is one of the most prestigious magazines. We have Aaron, who's built the whole point is we have best-selling authors. We have people that are booking speeches. And this is just in the last 3 months. So when people ask me, Christopher, I don't know if it's the best time. Why? You're alive. You have people, there's 55 million people who die every year before COVID, okay? Let me say that again. In the US alone, you have over 2 million people who die a year. In the world, you have 55 million people die. This is before COVID, okay? So I'm not to diminish this, by the way. I don't want to sound insensitive. Yes, there have been people that have been hurt. I have friends that have gone through COVID, and the people have passed away. So I want to be really, really, really clear, okay? This is real. People are dying from COVID, but I'm saying the vast majority of us, especially if you're on this call, we are still alive. We don't know when the good Lord is going to tell us it's our time to go. But if you're going to wait to go to another webinar, to go to read another book, you don't need to. If you notice all of the things I'm saying, it's action, 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 action. But it's not action as a construction worker. It's action as a developer and architect. I want to be really, really, really clear. The reason why my clients love me is because I give them strategy, not just motivation, but methodology. And this is clear proof. This is just from 3 months of people booking gigs globally. And you'll notice that Renee, for instance, booked this speech in 2021. I have increased from 2021 because that's how booking speeches are. It's all months in advance if they have a bigger budget. So keep in mind that now is the best time because people are home. People are more apt to have you as a virtual speaker because you tell me, Lydia, Amber, Pele, is it easier to convince someone to fly you out to a foreign country, a foreign or a state, put you up in a hotel, pay for your travel, pay for your expenses, pay for your meals, and hire you for a speech? Or is it easier to get a virtual keynote now? You tell me, okay? I get a lot of pushback sometimes where they don't really realize. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wait. That's the stupidest argument I've ever heard. I shouldn't have said stupid because that means I'm judging. I'll pull back. I'm a human being, but it just frustrates me and it gets me really sad because now is the best time to join our program. It's the best time to do this because people are actually home. You actually have time to devote to yourself. Once this blows over and every country is different, Sweden never even shut down. I just think it's unfortunate because this is literally going to be one of the most productive years of my life because I'm not waiting around for things to happen. It's now. But again, don't be the construction worker where you're just taking action. You have to be the developer. You have to hire someone like myself who's an architect who's been doing this for 20 years. So let me ask you a question. This is the script that I'm supposed to share, so I'm going to go off script. Bottom line is, do you want to spend 20 years trying to figure this stuff out, blood, sweat, and tears, or do you want a step-by-step system where I can tell you this is what you do in the next 2 hours, 2 weeks, 2 months? Because ultimately, the vast majority of people don't do things unless they have a very clear direction. And even Isaac Newton talked about physics. An object that is in motion stays in motion. So keep that in mind. You can sit here, watch this. This is cool, but make sure you get in motion because that's ultimately what you need. Do I have your permission to share this with you today? Please type in yes or hell yes or amen. I'm going to share with you this system that I created over 20 years, which I frankly wish I had because, again, you don't want to be that guy who drove 697 miles over 12 hours of driving through the cornfields of Muncie, Indiana, where I got lost to give a free speech to college students. I'm grateful I did it because it shows you my grit, my tenacity, my drive, but how many people will drive that many miles? So just keep in mind that it really is important that you find a system because the best way to learn how to do something is just copy, emulate the people that you respect and want to emulate and do that. That's what I did, by the way. I wanted to write a book. I read a book called The Self-Publishing Manual by Dan Poynter. I want to be a speaker. This is 15, 20 years ago. I met a guy named Wright Rounds who at that time, I thought it was a lot of money, 100 grand. It still is a lot of money, but I was like, oh my God, you can make $100,000 as a speaker? I met him. I wanted to learn online programs. Tai Lopez is a colleague of mine. I learned, wow, this guy can make 10, 20, $30 million on online programs. Insane. So thank you for your permission. I will go ahead and share with you what this program is about. It's called GPS because I'm your GPS to success. Like I said, do not be a construction worker in terms of the mindset where a lot of people, especially in the Western world, like, oh, I'm so freaking amazing because I get to work 15 hours a day, where I'm like, well, you can keep doing that, but I'm not going to work 15 hours a day. I will occasionally work that because it's necessary when you build new things out, but I'm going to be the developer. I'm going to be the architect where I think and vision first and then hire other people to build for me. So what I'm doing for you is being your architect. I'm going to help you understand step by step. This is self-guided. How do you become a speaker coach? Go to christopherkai.com/go to actually invest in it. Those who actually invest, actually, you know what? I'm just going to throw it in right now. I haven't even gone through my program, but the first three people that sign up, you will be put into a 1 month free of group coaching calls, which is a $5,000 value. So I haven't even gone through the whole program yet, but those who go do things quick and fast are ultimately the ones that are going to get the best results. So the program is this, step-by-step system is this, 20 years of experience, codified into 5 modules in a step-by-step fashion where I have no time to say how, oh, I'm going to give you 6,227 videos. So it sounds like it's a lot of stuff, but the blunt reality is I'd rather give you a very succinct step-by-step system. So the system is this. Module 1, you have to have an overview of what success means to you. And you have to know that your story can really inspire the world. And so ultimately, Know that that's possible. Know that it's real, that you can inspire the world. Second is you have to define what your speaking business is. There's different types of businesses as a speaker. You have the corporate speaking, which is you get paid before you step on stage. You have the speak to sell, which is more the Tony Robbins, where you get paid after you speak on stage. And you have the online world where you get paid when you sleep. This is so important. It sounds so simple, but I meet a lot of people that do not have a successful mindset. I literally, every day, I'm going to be very vulnerable and it's going to sound funny, but every day, one of the things I do when I meditate, I literally get in like it's called a horse stance, but I literally squat down. I lift my hands up and open really, 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 really wide. And I say to myself, I am healthy, wealthy, happy, and whole. And I say it over and over again. I am healthy, wealthy, happy, and whole. That's the first thing that I see as successful, where I first have to be healthy. I first have to be wealthy. I first have to feel happy and whole. But you have to have these affirmations, mantras, because otherwise, how are you going to be successful? Our bodies are the hardware. Our thoughts are the software. Our thoughts, we have, actually, let me see. Take a guess how many thoughts we have every day. Write in the comments how many thoughts we have every day. There's sometimes a lag. So therefore, I don't know if I'll see the comment, but type in the comments how many thoughts we have per day according to neuroimaging. Let me know if someone knows the number of thoughts we have every day. All right, I'm not going to wait around, but we have 70,000 thoughts a day. So Olivia, close by about 80,000. So 70,000. So why do we doubt ourselves? We already know that it's hard enough to actually be a speaker, be a coach, be an entrepreneur, be a good person. So why do we have those self-doubts? It's hard enough to actually do this. So just keep in mind that it's all about having that successful mindset. It's also about knowing that there's new speaking opportunities in terms of the COVID world, learning to apply every day. Like I said, I have a term called pedal to profit. PED stands for pitch each day. So pedal to profit. All the things you learn from my program, this is not something that is theoretical. This is something that you can do today. I have clients that literally make $20,000 from one phone conversation. Her name is Renee, by the way. I have another client who created a program within 30 minutes, booked his first client within 2 days. Within a whole month, he had a whole online program. Again, not everyone does it, but those that do get the best results. I said this before, there are really 10 specific marketing gems. Don't be the arrogant people, again, the more stereotypical alpha male that I was at one point, and I always do my best to keep my ego in check, where whether you're me doing it for 20 years or you doing it for 2 years, 2 months, or 2 weeks, it really is those 10 marketing gems, and you always want to keep iterating. Last part of the module 1 is you have to have daily habits. I already shared with you. It's kind of funny, but literally it's me lifting and raising up my hands. First, I'm in a squat position. I'm lifting my hands up. I'm looking up at the sky as I am now. And I say, I'm healthy, wealthy, happy, and whole. That's one of my daily success habits. It's super important that you have to have these, but what kind of habits do you have as a speaker? Again, go to christopherkai.com/go, join our program. Because if you don't do it now, frankly, if this COVID thing wasn't even happening, I wouldn't even be having this webinar. I wouldn't be having these podcasts. I wouldn't be doing and rebuilding my GPS program because, like I said, you tell me, if you spent 15, 20 years living your dreams as a speaker, and all of a sudden you start really getting some real momentum, like speaking at a castle, like speaking at the premier conference for event planners in Australia, like sharing the stage and going to a conference in Saudi Arabia where they fly you business class, live flatbed, which by the way is a game changer. Go to it's called the Kingdom Tower in November of Saudi Arabia. And regardless of how you feel about Saudi Arabia, I'm all about opportunities. They invited me to a youth conference. I'm going to go speak there because I want to help as many people as possible. I don't care what ethnicity you are. And it's very easy for us to judge other countries, but it's always best to go there first. But all I'm saying is Bill Gates has spoken there. Did Bill Gates say, you know what, I don't want to speak in Saudi Arabia. They have some issues. So that's about module 1. Module 2 is about, and I'll open up for questions right after I share this, but module 2 is really, this is the core thing, by the way. People are hiring you to be an expert. Remember, they're not hiring you just for your story. They're hiring you for you to share your expertise. And there's a very specific way you have to share your expertise. And in my actual module 2, you get to learn how it's defined. You get to get an assessment of what level you're at. And by level, you have both your personal experience, your actual expertise experience, and then what I call borrowed credibility. There are really only 4 specific main actual branches of how you can make a living. So know that it's not 16 branches, it's 4 branches. It's also about examples. Again, you model other people and do it yourself. So if you model me, you'll just be that much further off because it takes a lot of time to learn sales. It takes a lot of time to learn marketing. And then this whole layers of credibility. The simplest example is this. One layer of credibility is I am a speaker. Second layer might be international speaker. Third layer might be Fortune 500 international speaker. So you have to have multiple layers, and I literally walk you through step by step how to do that. Define your expertise. So first you go macro, first defining what expertise means in general, and then defining how you do it yourself. And that's what I come in because I really am an expert with what I do because that's why my clients love me. One guy said who used to fly helicopters and worked at the White House, he said, I love Christopher's coaching, and I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say love, but I like to use the word love. He said, I like how he coaches because he's both I both am encouraged and challenged. And I want to really stress that because I am both part Oprah and part Simon Cowell. If you don't have the Simon Cowell type coach who gives you blunt truth, you're going to be in your la land where you're not getting at the reality. But if you don't have the Oprah aspect, you want to have someone encourage you. So keep in mind that you really have to have that both. And that's why I help you define your expertise and then expand your expertise. You want to have multiple revenue streams, multiple. John D. Rockefeller, the most successful entrepreneur in the world, wasn't just an oil guy. He had steamships, he had banks, he had railroad, he had steel, he had actual orange groves. This is John D. Rockefeller. So you want to have multiple revenue streams. Go to christopherkai.com/go. I'm looking forward to having people on the chat box that I'm in. Those that book the speech, you're gonna be part of our group coaching calls, 1 month of free, 5,000 extra value. But this is, again, the value for module 2 is $997. Value for module 1 was $497. So ultimately, I'm going to go off script again, where it's really, you have all this value that you're getting. This is the module 3, where it's easier for me actually to just scroll through these various things because it's easier. I want you to look at that in one fell swoop. But for those who are bold, go ahead and join us now. Go to christopherkai.com/go. But let me just show you what I mean. So it's easier for me to just go through this, right? Go to christopherkai.com/go. The first person that announces that they're in, you are going to be amazing. And I will definitely make sure I surprise you by giving you a gift, even more than everyone else. So module 3, $2,000 value, 10 essential marketing gems. You really have to write a one-of-a-kind bio where your bio has to be outstanding, meaning it stands out. Your story, you have to understand how to share your story. You have to really clarify what your message is, and it has to be as simple as, I am an expert in networking, or I am an expert in sales, but it's about really being specific. You have to highlight your client list. The more higher caliber your clients are, the more money you'll make, the bigger stages you'll be on. You also have to start getting more in press, whether you write a book yourself, which isn't necessary, but it's helpful. But you really want to start getting featured on various publications, which we show you how. You also want to have photos. Well, like I said, that photo, by the way, is a 5-figure gig that Discover Card, a Fortune 500 company, hired me in Chicago last year, where they flew me first class, put me up in a hotel, and I spoke there for 45 minutes and left with well, actually, they pay you in advance, right? But the whole point is you have to have photos that impress and inspire. Videos, as I said to you before, they are your resumes for your speaking career. And even those that are coaches, especially now, you can't speak right now, at least, well, you can actually speak physically because there's a lot of countries that are open up now. The point is, you want to have videos of you showing your speaking, and you want to have photos of you showing your audience or on a Zoom call. And videos really are your speaking resume. Social media is literally free marketing. So those of you who are over 35 or 40, you might be scared, you might be squeamish, but really, you really have to build a following on social media because you will get more leads. And I literally just told you I got a lead from a nonprofit that has 4,000 members, and they're all C-level executives in the tech world and healthcare. So it doesn't get more specific than that. They're C-level executives. That means they have money, they have authority, they have positioning, and they invited me to potentially speak or actually train their executives for a virtual conference. So this is going on now, by the way, okay? And lastly, there's no excuse not to have a website that wows you, because ultimately, your website, you can go to wix.com, Wix.com. It's free. Now, if you pay $13 a month, you have all these pre-done templates, which was beautiful. There's no excuse now in 2020 to not have an amazing website that wows you. And that website should capture all the things I'm talking about: your bio, your story, your speech. But again, you can know what to do, but what my program does is teach you how to do it. Farah, welcome. Hopefully, I don't know if that's one of my friends. Farah is an amazing person, if that's Farah Smith. So that's module 3. Does anyone have any questions? Type in the chat box if you have any questions about module 1, 2, or 3. 2 is about your expertise. 3 is about your marketing. Type in the chat box if you have any questions. The 4th module, valued at $2,000, is sales. Now, this is the thing that a lot of people may or may not want to hear, but really, no one who has ever succeeded in business is horrible at sales. You either are the salesperson yourself, like Steve Jobs, or you find someone that is a salesperson that is the Steve Jobs of your business, because without sales, you have no business. How did I make $53,000 in 1 week? Well, I have first multiple revenue streams. I both got paid to speak in corporations. I both have private coaching clients, and I have online programs. So you have to have products people want. And by the way, I was vacationing in Barcelona at that time. So Babette said she's in. Congratulations, Babette. I'll just make a note of that to make sure that I give you an extra special gift that you are. Let me just see. I don't see that on my screen. I'm refreshing the screen. But Babette, welcome to our program. Congratulations. Again, put in your chat box when you buy the program. I will be happy to give you, let me just, okay. So again, the 4th module is simple ways, again, keeping it simple. You really have to have exact scripting. I've been doing this for 20 years, proven ways to build credibility. So many people, they ramble on about what they do. And frankly, so much about sales is about listening. The Chinese character for listening, Chinese characters are interesting. I was born and raised in New York, but ethically I'm Chinese. And so I actually know how to speak Chinese and write Chinese. And the character for listen has 5 different symbols in the character, which is not when you're listening to someone, you're not just listening with your ears, you're listening with your eyes, your heart, with one undivided attention. So when you're really good at sales, it's really about understanding how to listen. And the 7 questions your client wants you to know, there really are simple ways to build credibility, to ask the questions and answer the questions. How to be effective as a communicator, that's super important. And 4 areas to find clients. It's a whole bucket. The reason why that client, Renee, literally made $20,000 on a phone call, because I told her, here's one specific bucket you should do. And ultimately, that's how she made $20,000 just from literally a phone conversation I had with her. Again, based on 20 years of experience, everything sounds simple, but it never is, because ultimately it takes time. So also, you need to understand how to handle objections. That's super important. $30,000 follow-up technique. There's very specific ways to follow up. And one of the last 2 things is there are really only 2 types of networks you need to understand. How do you build an expert network? Let's say my clients buy into my program, they make an investment, so I'm an expert, so therefore they're part of my network. And then you have to have a client network, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or at an event where you want to have a constant stream. So go to christopherkai.com/go, and you will get all this value like Babette will, and she's the first one that signed up, so she's going to get an extra special gift. The last module, and then I'll open up for questions, and I'll just scroll, and I'll have everything on one screen, which is ultimately you have to have actual strategies, methodologies to really help you understand how to start, launch, and scale your speaking or online coaching business. And I want to stress, some of my clients are coaches. They don't want to travel a lot. But even if you just spoke 1 time a year, you can brand yourself as a speaker. And you tell me, will it be more impressive when you say you're both an international speaker and a coach, or just you're a coach? Because coach is such a broad term. You could be a certified coach, but when you become an international speaker, it's just so much more powerful. So the final thing in terms of the blank canvas is, I used to go to University of Buffalo, and every day when I walked out of my dorm room, there was a canvas. It was a blank canvas across the hallway, and it literally said, life is like a blank canvas, and you're the painter. So imagine our time, your time on earth is the actual canvas. How you spend your time is how you'll be remembered. Are you going to look at your blank canvas when you're 80 years old, looking back on your life, and look at all these episodes of Breaking Bad, all these episodes of Game of Thrones, all these episodes of Homeland, all these episodes of Netflix and Amazon Prime, or you have all these images, all these experiences, all these memories of this beautiful Picasso, of this beautiful Rodin, of this beautiful Michelangelo that has embodied your life, and hopefully it's pictures of your clients smiling broadly, of having their lives changed. The power of being a speaker, the power of being a coach is that you literally are teaching people how to be the Picasso, which is what I'm going to do. So every single day, this module 5 helps you very clearly understand how do you jumpstart your day with very specific habits. How do you have daily tasks that you can do? Because this is the bottom line. If you do not have strategies, methodologies, habits, a community, you're going to just go to the next webinar, read the next book. I just told you, this took me 20 freaking years to figure this stuff out. And do you really want to spend 20 years to figure this stuff out? Do you really want to be Myron that wanted to be 10 years? Do you really want to be another guy who 4 years ago, he literally said he's interested in learning about being a speaker. 4 years later, he's still doing nothing. And again, we all have excuses. Oh, I don't have the money. I don't have this. Well, we have a installment plan as well. So that's not an excuse. And the results, even now, we had 30 success stories in just the last 3 months. So Babette's already in. She is the leader. She's getting a special gift. ChristopherKai.com/go. Go there now. You're literally getting all this value, 6,000 plus value of material based on 20 years of experience, codified into 5 modules. And again, how I speak is how I coach. Simple, direct, to the point, concise. And I'm very, 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 very intentional when I speak and when I coach. So much so that it can take me an hour to rewrite or write someone's bio. It could take me 3 hours to research the bio. So when you see me speaking so concisely, it's because it's much harder to write a speech that's 10 minutes than to give a speech that's an hour, because those that have took the time to think and their words are concise, you know they spent a lot of time. And Michelangelo once said that if people knew how much time it took me to craft the David or create the Dante, they wouldn't think it as magnificent. When I first started my career, I literally spent 10 hours on a 10-minute speech, literally. So keep that in mind, that what you're getting here is not just some random dude that's doing this for 2 years. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm in my 40s. People always look at me and I'm like, wow, you look very young, Christopher. I'm like, yeah, I'm young at heart. And all of us should be. We have clients. I have a client that's 12 years old who's a personal trainer. We have a client that's 81 years old. Okay. So in theory, the 81-year-old might have less life than the 12-year-old, but in the reality is we all know that life is not guaranteed. Make sure you sign up now, because if you don't do it now, when? All of us have this precious moment. Everyone has this blank canvas. You have a $6,000 value. We're getting it for $997, and there's an installment plan, and you get bonuses. Bonus number 1, you get the exclusive video vault. You have things like, how do you get representation from a speaking bureau? How do you make 10 grand in a few months? How do you get 5,000 followers on Facebook? It's like very, very, very specific things where, yes, you have the core foundation of the GPS program, but then you also have how do you create an online training program? How do you start and structure a 1-hour speech? So these are all the invaluable bonuses, benefits you'll get now if and when you sign up now. So Babette shouldn't be the only person. Make sure you sign up now. Go to ChristopherKai.com/go. Sign up so that you will get these bonus gifts that I'm going to give to you. How to write a bio from scratch. Like I said, the bio is the foundation. That's the first thing you get, is the video vault. We keep adding to that all the time. You have the Facebook community, where one of the first things I do is always stress that we are a community of change agents. We are a community of speakers, coaches, and authors. We have clients in over 120 cities, close to 30 countries, and now 6 continents. And so, Babette, thank you for There's Nothing Like This program. I know, and this is the thing, which is really unfortunate, Babette, is one, right now we have 159 people in our gifters GPS community. When it gets to 1,500, 15,000, people are like, oh my gosh, I was there when, and you could literally say that. You could be the first 300, because I wouldn't be doing this had this not happened. And that's actually very fortuitous, because again, I'm not some dude that did this 15 years ago. I'm doing it now, real time. And that's why I get excited. I'm like a little puppy dog. When you see a puppy dog, they're like wagging their tail, because I have no interest in just helping myself. I can easily do fine as a speaker, but that's not the point of life, okay? My mother raised me right. My mother raised me better. So you'll be part of our Facebook mastermind community, Win Your Access, where we constantly posting stuff every single day, week, month, and year. You'll also get how to be productive, and it's super important that you have to be productive. Otherwise, you're not going to do much. You'll also get a video that I created specifically in terms of what I learned from Elon Musk. I spent dozens of hours learning about him. And then when I interviewed him, you always want to be prepared. So what are the 3 networking tips you can learn from Mr. Elon Musk? And this is the thing that is priceless. As I said to you before, I wrote the book on networking. I wrote the book on how to get to these events for free. I wrote the book that is a #1 bestseller on getting to these events for free. And I've helped my clients get into hundreds of thousands of dollars events for free. So know that you can have the branding and marketing, which is important to warrant your price points. But if you don't have the network, you're not going to get the price points you deserve. You're not going to get inspired because, again, beyond the money thing, it's about the meaning. It's not just the profit, it's the purpose. So you're getting this book for free, ebook. And again, over $9,000 of value today, $997, and you have installment plans. So there's really no excuse, because if this COVID didn't happen, we wouldn't even be having this. I'm just grateful to have you on. Please feel free to ask questions. And this is the best time, because once this blows over, which it will, you're going to just miss out on the single best opportunity for personal growth in human history, because people will be back on the road. People will be busier. So all the people that say, I'm going to wait, that is not the best thing to do, because as my clients that have joined me, they're already crushing it now. They're getting results now. So why would you wait when you're already getting results? So there is a payment plan. Go to christopherkai.com/go. There's a payment plan. You can pay installments for 3 months. So go to christopherkai.com. So Q&A. Anyone have any questions? We already talked about this, about credibility. You need someone with a lot of years of credibility to help you, which is why I'm here. And speech topic, you may or may not know it. Well, that's where I'm here to help. You have the book first. Sterling Hawkins makes over $20,000 for speech, and he has not written one book. How is this different? I've already said to you, I'm a New Yorker. I speak like I'm very direct when I speak, but really, this is the only program that I'm aware of that focuses on not just how to get paid before you get on stage. I teach you how to get paid when you're on stage, and I teach you how to get paid when you're falling asleep. This offer does expire. Great question, Chris. So this offer does expire when this podcast, when this webinar is over. All these bonuses expire. All the group coaching calls expire. All that stuff expires. So buy it now. Otherwise, you will not be part of our awesome group. Again, over $9,000 worth of value for just $997 of your investment. There are installment plans. Go to christopherkai.com/go. Simone has a question. Does your talk have to be inspirational? I speak on wine and climate change. No, Simone, the gentleman I mentioned to you, who's my 81-year-old client, he's a passionate environmentalist. There's actually so much bottom line reasons to be a climate change person. And again, I'm not going to get political because some people don't believe in it. That's someone's opinion. But the point is, it's about finding a niche and knowing that you can make anything inspirational, Simone. That's why I am here. Specifically, as an example, I met a woman at an airport last year when I was giving a speech. This woman was a shoe shiner. She literally shined shoes. But her name was Amina. She talked about Ethiopia. She talked about how she loved Africa. So she was an inspirational woman who shined shoes, okay? So Simone, that's one example of, you might not think of a shoe shiner woman as inspirational, but my Hugo Boss shoes now are inspired by Amina from Ethiopia, who taught me about life, culture, and humanity. So that's an example of how you really want to understand how to share stories inspirationally, because you might think you're not inspirational, or that wine or not. I mean, wine is very inspirational, especially when you drink some wine. Babette said, I enrolled in different programs, though I'm canceling as this program provides so much more. Awesome, Babette. I appreciate that. So again, put in the chat box if you have any questions. All of these bonuses will expire. You won't get any of these bonuses if you do not sign up now. And again, you really want to be focus on now, because otherwise you're not going to get very far in life if you're not with people like myself, who I think fast, I talk fast, but I get results fast too. And that's why my clients, even to this day, 30 plus testimonials in just the last 3 months. You're welcome. My topic can be very dark. It is my doctorate. Again, it's just about understanding your clientele and understanding if you want to make money, Simone, it's about providing what they want. And that's what my program does, is to help you and understand exactly how to pick those topics. That's the point of the module, is to give you an understanding of how to pick the topics. So any other questions? Again, what is holding you back? Babette already joined. So Babette's in. She's going to get a special discount. I mean, sorry, not discount. She's going to get a special gift. What is holding you all back? Because ultimately, if you don't do this now, you're going to miss out on these all opportunities. And these coaching calls, I tell my staff, Jenny, all the time, to remind everyone that had this not happened, I wouldn't even be doing coaching calls. It's literally been 3+ years. So Chris asked, how fast can you get the results? Like I said, I've had clients literally based on a phone call make $20,000. Her name is Renee. She's one of the testimonials, Renee Johnson. I've had other clients named Jesse who created a program within 30 minutes, because again, I just keep things super simple. And ultimately, that's how you get more results. So, and again, I'm not going to overpromise either, because some people get great results, some people don't. But ultimately, the ones that do the work get the results the quickest. The ones that don't, unfortunately, don't. So it's really about understanding, hey, now's the time to really up your game, to utilize this time, because once this blows over, which it will, you will not have the people that are home listening to your emails or reaching out to them. Like I said, do you want to be the construction worker doing the work, or do you want to be the developer developing your dreams and have me as your architect designing those dreams? Because without the architect that gives you the blueprints, how realistically can you actually build your dreams? Make sense? So again, you're getting $9,000 worth of value for just $997. I walk you through step by step. How do you build your expertise? How do you market yourself? How do you sell? EMS for short. EMS, it stands for Emergency Medical Services. In my case, it stands for expertise. It stands for marketing. It stands for sales. All these things, you know what to do now, but what I do in my program is teach you how to do it. So again, go to christopherkai.com/go and join our community, because that frankly is why I am most excited. Type in the chat box. Tell me bluntly what's holding you back, because again, you've watched and listened to this webinar for over an hour and a half now. And for those of you who have not signed up like Babette, tell me why. Tell me now, because who knows if we'll connect again, but I hope we do. But again, I'm here to help and serve you. So tell me, what are some questions you have? What's holding you back? Oftentimes people say it's money. Well, we have an installment plan. Some people think that the value is not there. Well, I mean, that's something for you to decide, because ultimately the value that my clients get consistently, whether being featured on various publications, whether booking paid speeches, whether traveling the world, that's all literally have 30+ testimonials on YouTube that you can watch the videos, or the ones that you saw there. That comes down to you taking action and doing the work, but I can give you the guidance. So type in the chat box, what are some of your concerns? What are some of your things that are holding you back? I'm happy to answer those questions. Otherwise, if you don't, these will expire very soon, where if you don't apply now, if you don't actually do this now, we're not going to have the group coaching calls. You're not going to have real time, because this is just, by the way, self-guided. You're paying into the self-guided program, and ultimately you won't get me as group coaching calls, because as soon as I can, I'm back on a plane. So Chris asked, can I get paid doing this virtual? Absolutely. One of my bureaus pitched a $10,000 gig in the last 3 weeks. One of my clients, she booked a $4,000 gig. So some of them are paid, some of them are not. But even the ones that are not, again, as long as you know, let's say I spoke for an African group recently. It wasn't a paid gig, but I ended up securing a few clients from there. So the bottom line is, you want to get paid before you speak, corporate speaking. You want to get paid after you speak, which is the more speak to sell. You want to get paid when you sleep. So you want to have online programs. But again, the foundation is you have to first understand how to be an expert. Then you have to understand how to market expertise. And then you have to understand how to sell yourself, because if you don't understand the sales part, you can have all the marketing and branding in the world. But if you don't have the network, it doesn't matter. So type in the chat box what questions you have. Our webinar is going to end very shortly. And when it ends, you have no more chance to be part of our amazing program, because now is the best time. Because what's going to happen is this: if you don't sign up now and you know we're going to be a speaker, are you going to be that guy that has wanted to be a speaker for 4 years? Are you going to be Myron that's going to wait 10 years? Because it really does get harder. The longer you wait, the harder it gets, because you'll have other things. And again, as soon as this happens, you will either be super, super, super excited that you signed up now, or you'll be super, super sad that you could have signed up and you didn't. So that choice is yours, because ultimately now is the best time to work on yourself. Now is the best time to invest in yourself, because once this all blows up, which it will, you will miss out on the single best opportunity in human history, because ultimately you have to do things now. So let me know. We already have Babette that signed up. So congratulations, Babette, joining our program. You really have to do it now. Otherwise, you will not get the results that you deserve. So any questions for me? Those holding you back. Oftentimes it's, I don't have the time. Well, do you have 1 hour a day? If you have 1 hour a day, then you have 5 hours a week. If you have 5 hours a week, you have 20 plus hours a month. And if you, it's a priority thing too. A lot of times people say, oh, I have a lot on my plate. Well, it's not so much about time management, honestly. It's about priorities. It's about understanding what is your single most important priority. If your single most important priority is to provide for you, your family, you want to have a level of income, you want to have a level of impact, then how do you do that? Speaking is the best way. And I've been doing this for 20 years, so I know how powerful it is. Just make sure you realize that it's so important that you recognize the opportunities that you have. I can't tell you, my first client actually online, his name is Pedro De Leon. He paid, I think it was $600 at the time, 5 years ago, for a networking program. That program, by the way, that I charged $600 for, that program is $6,000 now. So the beauty of when you sign on early for these type of things, you're getting a lot more value, because again, I'd be on a plane right now. I'd be in Saudi Arabia. I'd be in Dubai. I'd be in Australia right now. But you get me on the phone. So when someone, the last person I did a private client, at least one-on-one for hourly, the guy paid me $2,000. So you've already been on this call for an hour and a half. And so you've already gotten $3,000 worth of value. And I'm not here to tell you how awesome, amazing I am. I'm just telling you the value that you're getting, that no one, as I think Amber said, or Angie said, that no one is doing this in terms of how I'm doing it, because no one has been doing it for 20 years, because people that are billed at $20,000, they don't need to have an online program. But like I said, I want to always remember who I am. The book I wrote about networking with billionaires, I actually dedicated it to people who feel like an outsider. And the funny thing is when I wrote that book and I started sharing that book, people that were very successful bought the book and ultimately did really well. And I said, this is not the point of me writing the book. The point of me writing the book was to help non-billionaires become millionaires or become more successful. So looks like it expires tomorrow. I could do the smaller payments. So again, sign up now on Christopher.com/go. This is your time to shine. If you don't do it now, when will you do it? I just have so many people that want to do things, but wanting is not going to get you there. You can have the intention, but if you don't have the methodology, if you don't have the strategies, if you don't have the motivation, and the person like myself who is very active on social media, who is always giving. And again, go to ChristopherKai.com, look at the testimonials. There's literally all races, all ethnicities. I really get frustrated sometimes. As you know, I'm ethnically Asian. I get frustrated sometimes when I see all these so-called programs and they're all white people, or they're all black people, or they're all like they're all homogenous, or they're all men. I'm like, I don't want to go to another community that's all the same of everything. I want to see a Star Trek type community, and that's what I've built. Gandhi has once said, we must be the change we wish to see in the world. So when you see our community, it's not just the same ethnicity, not just the same gender. I literally, again, have clients from age 12 to 81, white, black, blue, green, Asian, Latino, yellow, brown. I don't care what color you are. I want to know that one day, looking back at my life, many years from now, that we were part of a community called GPS, where we inspire people with our story. We help people. We impacted people on a global scale that if you were to just share your story once, then that one person can impact other people. So this is way beyond the whole money thing. Because like I said, I could be making a lot more money just giving speeches, but I love what I do and I want to help as many people as possible. Thank you. You're welcome, Babette, for my humility and serve my heart. And that really comes, frankly, from my mother, who raised me right. She has since passed, but she raised her 3 sons, which I'm the youngest, right? She was a school teacher. She immigrated here from Hong Kong. And I'm very grateful that I had a mother and father who loved me, but ultimately she is really the person that taught me how to be tenacious, taught me to be committed. So join our community, inspire the world, turn your story into a successful speaking and coaching business. This is your last chance to join our community that's in 120 cities, 29 countries, and 6 continents. We just invited someone from Nigeria recently, from China, from New Zealand, from France. This is all during COVID, by the way. Everyone's like scared and concerned and blah, blah, blah. But I don't see my clients concerned and scared and worried because they're part of this awesome community called GPS. So type in the chat box if you have other clients, or I'm sorry, if you have other questions. 5 modules based on 20 years of experience, 5 bonuses that are going to go away, disappear, and they're installment plans. So let me just check comments if you have any other questions. Let me see if there's any other questions. So again, Simone, I help you create the product and the program and the expertise. Amber, so much room for love. Olivia said you were signing up. Hopefully you did well on your test. So again, now is the time to shine. I mean, literally, what are you waiting for? It's like, there's this thing called the paradox of choice where it's like, I'm going to look for another program. Like, yeah, you can, but you show me a guy or gal that's made $20,000 from one speech, and I showed you the actual check, which was a $15,000 check for a $30,000 gig. Am I getting paid that every single time? No, it's just really started happening in the last 3 to 5 years. So you're literally getting the best of who Christopher Kai is, because ultimately, like all things, first speech, I got paid $50. First 14 years, I got the $55,000. Between the 14th and 16th year, I figured out how to get past the $20,000 mark. And now 20 years in, I've been doing this for 20 years, but like all things, you're literally getting the best of me because you get the best of all worlds. You get the Facebook community, you get the self-guided program, and you get the group coaching calls, which ultimately it's almost like private coaching where that's a lot higher of a price point. And you're getting all that for $997. Babette, welcome to our community. Everyone else, final chance to join our community. Otherwise, I wish you the best. Final chance. Put in the chat box questions you might have. Ask them now before we go poof, because ultimately it's unfortunate, but a lot of people don't realize that there's a urgency of time. 55 million people die every single year. Sounds a bit morbid, but how many of those 55 million people, this is pre-COVID, by the way, wish they had a chance to be on this webinar, wish they could be a speaker, wish they can be a coach, but they are now no longer here. 55 million people. In this webinar alone, there are already so many people who have no longer here. So if you already have wanted to do this for a while, join now. Go to christopherkai.com/go. Be part of a community. And I'd be grateful and happy to be part of your world. So, final chance. Bonus is going away. I'm going away. And everyone's going away because we're ending our webinar now. Do we get a coaching call? Chris, like I said, for those that join now, you get a free month of group coaching calls. Right now, we have between 10 and 20 people, which is, again, is still pretty intimate. Once that becomes 200, 2,000, then it's not going to be as intimate. So you get group coaching calls valued at $5,000, where now is the best time. Sign up now so we can send out the email. Go to christopherkai.com/go. Type it in now, type it in now, type it in now. All right. Well, we have a few more people. Any questions? Tell me what I can do to get you part of our program now, because really now is the time. You already got these bonuses. You already got the group coaching calls. Babette's already getting a special gift that I haven't even thought about, because that's how cool I am. I'm going to think about things on the fly and be a surprise for everyone. So now is the time where it's like the the deal or no deal. Deal or no deal. It's about the swift urgency of now. I think, well, it's like the book by Eckhart Tolle. I think it's like I think he wrote a book about Earth and about now, but really just do your best to ultimately be present and be part of our community. Go to christopherkai.com/go, join our program, and I wish you the best. So thanks again for being a part of our program. And that is it. Go to christopherkai.com/go. I bet we'll be in touch soon. Bye, everyone.